Scientists may disagree on what the best thing about eating plants is. Is it the antioxidants in them, the fiber, the omega-3 fatty acids? But they do agree on one thing, and that's that plants are probably really good for you and certainly can't hurt. Even the nutrition scientists say that eating more plants can't be harmful. That plants are good for humans to eat probably doesn't need much elaboration, but the story of vitamin C, an antioxidant we depend primarily on plants to supply us, points to the evolutionary reasons why this might have become the case. Way back in evolution, our ancestors possessed the biological ability to make vitamin C, an essential nutrient, from scratch. Like other antioxidants, vitamin C, or ascorbic acid, contributes to our health in at least two important ways. Several of the body's routine processes, including cell metabolism and the defense mechanism of inflammation, produce oxygen radicals, which are atoms of oxygen with an extra unpaired electron that make them particularly eager to react with other molecules in ways that can create all kinds of trouble. Free radicals have been linked with many health problems, including cancer and the various problems associated with aging. Antioxidants like vitamin C harmlessly absorb and stabilize these radicals before they can do their damage. But antioxidants do something else for us as well. They stimulate the liver to produce the enzymes necessary to break down the antioxidant itself. Enzymes that, once produced, go on to break down other compounds as well, including whatever toxins happen to resemble the antioxidant. In this way, antioxidants help detoxify dangerous chemicals, including carcinogens. And the more kinds of antioxidants in the diet, the more kinds of toxins the body can disarm. This is one reason why it's important to eat as many different kinds of plants as possible. They all have different antioxidants and so help the body eliminate different kinds of toxins. So it stands to reason that the more toxins there are in the environment, the more plants you should be eating. Animals can make some of their own antioxidants, including, once upon a time, vitamin C. But there was so much vitamin C in our ancestors' plant-rich diet that over time we lost our ability to make the compound ourselves. Perhaps because natural selection tends to get rid of anything unnecessary and metabolically expensive to produce. The reason plants are such a rich source of antioxidants is that they need them to cope with all the pure oxygen produced during photosynthesis. This was a happy development for the plants, of course, because it made humans utterly dependent upon them for an essential nutrient, which is why humans have been doing so much for the vitamin C producers ever since, spreading their genes and expanding their habitat. We sometimes think of sweetness as the linchpin of the reciprocal relationship between plants and people, but antioxidants like vitamin C play an equally important, if less perceptible, part. So our biological dependence on plants goes back and runs deep, which makes it not at all surprising that eating them should be so good for us. There are literally hundreds of studies demonstrating that a diet rich in vegetables and fruits reduces the risk of dying from all the Western diseases. In countries where people eat a pound or more of fruits and vegetables a day, the rate of cancer is half of what it is in the United States. We also know that vegetarians are less susceptible to most of the Western diseases, and as a consequence, live longer than the rest of us. Though near vegetarians, so-called flexitarians, are just as healthy as vegetarians. Exactly why this should be so is not quite as clear as the fact that it is. The antioxidants in plants almost certainly are protective, but so may be the omega-3s and the fiber and still other plant components and synergies as yet unrecognized, as studies seem to point towards plants being more than the sum of their nutrient parts. But the advantages of a plant-based diet probably go beyond whatever is in the plants, because plant foods, with the exception of seeds, are less energy dense than most of the other things you might eat. By eating a plant-based diet, you will likely consume fewer calories, which is in itself protective against many chronic diseases. The seed exception suggests why it's important to eat more leaves than seeds. Though unrefined seeds, including whole grains and nuts, can be very nutritious, they're high in calories, which suits their biological role as energy storage devices. It's only when we begin refining plant seeds or eating them to the exclusion of the rest of the plant that we get into trouble. So what about eating meats? Unlike plants, which we can't live without, we don't need to eat meat. With the exception of vitamin B12, every nutrient found in meat can be obtained somewhere else. And the tiny amount of B12 we need isn't too hard to come by. It's found in all animal foods and is produced by bacteria. So you obtain B12 from eating dirty or decaying or fermented produce. But meats, which humans have been going to ridiculous lengths to obtain and have been eating for a very long time, is nutritious food, supplying all the essential amino acids as well as many vitamins and minerals, and there doesn't seem to be a compelling health reason to exclude it from our diets. But that's not to say that there aren't good ethical or environmental reasons to do so. For example, industrial meat production is notoriously brutal to the animals and extremely wasteful of resources such as water, grain, as well as antibiotics. The industry is also one of the biggest contributors to water and air pollution. A 2006 report issued by the United Nations stated that the world's livestock generate more greenhouse gases than the entire transportation industry. That said, eating meat in the tremendous quantities we do, each American now consumes an average of 200 pounds of meat a year, is probably not a good idea, especially when the meat comes from a highly industrialized food chain. Several studies point to the conclusion that the more meat there is in your diet, red meat especially, the greater your risk of heart disease and cancer. Yet, studies of flexitarians suggest that small amounts of meat, less than one serving a day, don't appear to increase one's risk. Thomas Jefferson probably had the right idea when he recommended using meat more as a flavor principle than as a main course, treating it as a condiment for the vegetables. So what exactly is in the meat that we need to worry about? Is it the saturated fat, the type of iron, the carcinogens produced in curing and cooking it? It's unclear. The problem could be simply that eating lots of it pushes plants out of the diet. But eating too much industrial meat exposes us to more saturated fat, omega-6 fatty acids, growth hormones, and carcinogens that we probably want in our diet. Meat has both the advantages and disadvantages of being at the top of the food chain. It accumulates and concentrates many of the nutrients in the environment, but also many of the toxins. Meat offers us a good proof of the proposition that the healthfulness of a food cannot be divorced from the health of the food chain that produced it. That the health of the soil, plant, animal, and eater are all connected, for better or worse, which suggests a special rule for people eating animal foods. You are what you eat too. That is, the diet of the animals we eat has a bearing on the nutritional quality and healthfulness of the food itself, whether it's meat or milk or eggs. This should be self-evident, yet it's a truth routinely overlooked by the industrial food chain in its quest to produce vast quantities of cheap animal protein. That quest has changed the diet of most of our food animals from plants to seeds, because animals grow faster and produce more milk and eggs on a high-energy diet of grain. But some of our food animals, such as cows and sheep, are mammals that evolved to eat grass. If they eat too many seeds, they become sick, which is why grain-fed cattle have to be given antibiotics. Even animals that do well on grain, such as chickens and pigs, are much healthier when they have access to green plants, and so it turns out are their meat and eggs. For most of our food animals, a diet of grass means much healthier fats in their meat, milk and eggs, as well as appreciably higher levels of vitamins and antioxidants. Sometimes you can actually see the difference, as when butter is yellow or egg yolks bright orange. What you're seeing is the bitter keratin from fresh green grass. It's worth looking for pastured animal foods in the market and paying the price that they typically cost. It's also worth noting that free range doesn't necessarily mean the chicken has had access to grass. Many egg and broiler producers offer their chickens little more than a dirt yard where nothing grows. Look for the word pastured. And in the case of beef, keep in mind that all cattle are grass-fed until they get to the feedlot. Grass-finished or 100% grass-fed is what you want. So the rule about eating more leaves and fewer seeds applies not only to us, but also to the animals in our food chain. If you found this video helpful and you'd like to see more of these videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.